Hello, and thank you for watching this March 20th Ag Forecast, brought to you by Agrible, the makers of Morning Farm Report. My name is Eric Snodgrass, and I'm a senior atmospheric scientist and co-founder of Agrible. Well, Monday of this week marks the astronomical beginning of spring in the Northern Hemisphere. This day marks the vernal or spring equinox, and equinox means equal night, which references how every place on Earth, except the North and South poles, experience 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness. Now, for the North Pole, the sun will rise after staying below the horizon since September 21st. This video shows what it's like to see the sun that never sets. Now, if you were to venture to the North Pole during summer, the sun would simply dance along the horizon, just like you see here, not setting for 6 straight months. And if I could boil all of the variability we experience in terms of weather down to one big idea, it's exactly what you're watching here. Essentially, the tilt of the Earth on its axis changes how much of the sun's light any given spot on Earth receives throughout the year, which ultimately drives Earth's weather systems. So let's see how spring looks so far. Now, each dot on this map shows a weather station across the United States that has already recorded an above average accumulation of growing degree days. Notice how the southern states are between 300 and 500 growing degree days ahead of normal so far this year. And this is all despite how cool March has been so far. You see, this map shows the surface air temperature anomalies through the first half of the month. And the repeated troughs in the jet stream over the eastern half of the country have really started off this month cool. In fact, 4-inch soil temperatures have actually cooled off a few degrees after being so warm in February for all but the far western part of the Corn Belt. And again, that was primarily due to these colder temperatures and some snow cover. But before we look at the long-range forecast for spring, let's see what's on tap for the upcoming week. Let's start here. This is the forecast for total accumulated precipitation through Wednesday night. While the west coast gets pounded yet again, the Corn Belt will deal with a couple of chances of rain for early in the week. Here we're watching those showers and thunderstorms early in the week on Monday in Illinois and Indiana and Ohio. You can also see how disorganized showers and potentially some snow push through the Central Plains too. But notice how by the end of this animation, which gets us into late Wednesday night, a high pressure center moves in over the Great Lakes. Now, that high-pressure center will definitely bring in some cooler air to the Corn Belt, especially the Great Lakes states, after what will be a pretty warm start to the week. But here's what I'm watching out for the end of this week. While the flow of the jet stream is relatively weak, a decent trough will dig into the central United States, while a ridge spreads over the eastern United States by Friday. This flow pattern will initiate the development of a large low-pressure system for Friday into Saturday, and this is one that must be watched closely. Now, as I'm making this video on Sunday night, you need to know that there's a lot of uncertainty in the strength and timing of this system, but it has the potential to produce quite a bit of precipitation and potentially some severe storms, so keep an eye on the forecast for the end of this week. Now, I don't see this active flow pattern in the jet stream slowing down for a while either. Here we're looking at the precipitation anomalies as projected over the next 32 days by the European model. And notice how a large section of the Corn Belt is forecast to have a wet start to spring. Now, that's a really important forecast given the latest U.S. Drought Monitor update. We've had very little change in the Drought Monitor over the last couple of weeks, which means we are still watching the drought in Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma very closely over the next 2 months. We must also watch the drought in the wheat belt, where fires have broken out numerous times over the last 3 weeks. So to wrap up this video, let's look out over the next 3 months at the spring weather. NOAA early last week released its spring outlook, and here we're looking at their temperature probability map for April through June of 2017. Now, NOAA's forecast follows very closely with the projections made by the IRI multi-model probability forecast, which calls for very similar temperature patterns, as you can see here in this map. And in addition to this, the 9 separate models that contribute to the National Multi-Model Ensemble are calling for a warm pattern as well. Now, our analysis here at Agrible isn't calling for spring temperatures to be quite this warm, but it looks as though we will continue to stay above trend on the accumulation of those growing degree days, especially farther south. Again, this forecast is likely a little bit too warm, especially across this region here. But what we can take away from this is that the long-range projections are not seeing a cool start to spring like we have seen for the first half of March. And finally, NOAA released its spring flood risk map as well. As we have talked about, the snowpack has hung around in North Dakota despite February's warmth, and when this is combined with a wet spring outlook, the flood risk is elevated. The importance of this map is in seeing the chance for increased prevent plan issues in North Dakota as we head into spring, something we've been talking about since the beginning of February. Now with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up our forecast. As always, we at Agrible will bring the latest and best weather forecast information through our morning farm report so that you can efficiently plan your operations. We thank you for your attention, and we hope you look forward to our next Ag Forecast. Thank you.